Hello to all my dear friends. In this session, we want to review the application of the hatch command or hatching together. The hatch command is both an editing command and can also be used to create new shapes, which is why it's located in the Draw panel. Here is the hatch command, which has three modes: hatch, gradient, and boundary. You can specify these, but I will teach you all of them under one command. First, let's see. We draw a rectangle. Our rectangle is automatically drawn with fileted corners. Why does this happen? If you remember in the previous session, when I was teaching you the filet subcommand in rectangle, I enabled this feature, and it remains active with us. To fix this, select the rectangle, go to the fillet subcommand, set it to 0, and press Enter. Now, any rectangle you draw will be without filleted corners. I draw a circle here, change its position, then draw another rectangle and an ellipse here. To apply hatching, I must have a closed area so I can tell AutoCAD that I want to hatch inside this closed area. The application of this is, for example, to show floor materials or to distinguish closed spaces. Here we have a service area, and with hatch, the floor of a region is distinguished for us. A hatch is an object, so we can delete it. I press Ctrl+Z to undo. We can move it, and there are many uses for hatching. Now let's review this in an example. You can either select the hatch icon from here or type H and press Enter. In English, it's H Enter. Now wherever my mouse is inside a closed area, it shows the hatch. If I click on Pick Point, you see it shows the hatch. Why weren't the circle, ellipse, and rectangle selected? Because they are closed areas themselves, and the hatch can't enter them. I hatch this one, and when I press Enter, I exit the command, and the hatch remains here. Now, suppose I want to edit the hatch I just created. What can I do? This editor window appears at the top. If I select my hatch again, a new tab opens for me. The Hatch Editor. I can edit the hatch I created. The hatch editor doesn't exist in the normal state. If I press Escape, the hatch editor disappears. The hatch editor, like many other editors such as Array, has a contextual ribbon. That is, a temporary ribbon appears when selected and disappears when you're done. Now, if I click on the hatch, a window opens where I can make edits. What does the Select command do? If I exit the command and have another object here, when I select the hatch and go to the hatch editor, if I use the select command, I can add this object to my hatch set. Note that if I exit the hatch editor and select the hatch, both are selected together. If I move them, they move together. I press Ctrl+Z. Now, if I wanted these to be a single hatch set and change together, for example, if I change their scale or angle, they change together. I set it to 5 and press Enter. Both change together. Although these are two objects, they are considered a single set. Now if I select them and press Remove, I can remove this object from my hatch set and press Enter. This object is removed. Now suppose I want to have a hatch in this small rectangle, separate from this hatch. I close the hatch editor, and instead of selecting and adding it, I create another hatch for this one independently. I press Enter to exit the command. Now, this is one hatch. If I change it, only this one changes. This is another hatch. These are two separate hatches. I delete this one. So if you want to have separate hatches, you need to create multiple hatches separately. You shouldn't select your hatch and add objects to it. Now suppose I want to remove this ellipse from the hatched area, meaning I want the hatch to also be inside this ellipse and add it to the hatch set. To do this, I click Select, click this object, and press Enter. The hatch is removed from inside them, and this feature is available to me. The next option is Boundary Recreate. What does Recreate do? Suppose I leave my object here, move the hatch out, and place it here. My object, which is a polyline, is gone. Or inside this circle I had, you see. It's as if the outline is missing. With Recreate, I can recreate these polylines. I select the hatch, click on Recreate, and I have two options, region or polyline. I select polyline and press Enter. You see, it rebuilt the outline. Now these are separate objects. I press Ctrl+Z to remove the extra outlines. I select the hatch again, Recreate. This time I choose region, press Enter, and press Enter again. Now you see, my polyline set has become unified. I can no longer select the circle, ellipse, or rectangle separately. They have all become one polyline, and if I change it, they all change together. So this is the use of the Recreate command. I press Ctrl+Z to return to the previous state. Now let's review the rest of the commands inside Hatch together. Now, in the current situation, if I change the position of the circle, the hatch also changes accordingly, meaning it recognizes that my circle is here or there and adjusts the hatch accordingly. Now, I select my hatch. This is the main application of the associativity option. If this is not selected, if I exit the hatch and try to move the circle, it gets messed up. The circle is no longer recognized as an independent closed area after the change. In any case, if that option was active, I press Ctrl+Z. I select the hatch, and this option should always be active. It has many uses. The next options, we can use patterns, colors, or other settings. If we select solid, it becomes a solid uniform color. The solid color can be selected here, whether it's solid or patterned. Again, I can open the pattern list and select a pattern or a solid color. For now, I have a solid color. How can I specify its color? It can be by layer, matching the layer it's on, or another color, like yellow or green. This type of green or these colors are enough for me. It uses index color, which are specific, typical colors. If I want more colors, I can access the color spectrum, for example, based on HSL or RGB, and it gives me this color range. I click OK, and it's done. I exit the hatch editor, and now my hatch is colored. Where else is this useful? In symbols or places where you want to show a solid color. I select it again, and with this, I can change its color again. If I click More Colors, I can also use the color box, which contains colors that are directly available in the market and are a coordinated color set. So, that's for this part. Now, I can also specify its transparency. Now, you see its transparency is 0, meaning it's not transparent at all. I select it, increase the transparency, and now as I reduce it, you see it becomes more transparent. I can see the grid lines behind it. If I increase the transparency up to 90, you see it's very transparent, and the lines behind it are more visible. So, that's for hatch transparency. Now I can select a pattern instead of a solid fill, use one of the default patterns, and set its color to white so you can see it better. If I open the patterns, it has different styles, like brick. Why does the brick pattern look so large? Because of its scale. If I set the scale to 5 and then to 1, it shows it 1 to 1. If I set it to 10, it becomes so large that I can't see it. Now I can set it to less than 1, like 0.1, and it becomes very fine. So maybe 0.3 is enough. Now I can also change its angle here. For example, set it to 45 degrees. I can also set the origin, telling it where to start. I click Set Origin and specify here. So the first brick starts from here, and the pattern spreads from here. Now another option is active, which wasn't active for solid fill. What is this for? For example, I set this to orange. There are two more options, one for the line color and one for the brick color. For the line color, I set it to gray, for example. So we can have these two options here, the brick color and the line color. I select both again, set them to by layer, and the pattern has no color. I can also select other patterns like break.
You see, it's very fine. What's the problem?
You already know about the scale issue. If I meticulously set the scale to a value of 1, it appears far too small. Conversely, if I adjust it to a value of 10, it then looks precisely right and proportionate. Now, my intention is to precisely set the origin point. For this particular instance, I desire it to commence its arrangement from the very top. I will carefully select this specific point, and as a result, the individual bricks are now systematically arranged, starting from the uppermost position. You might wonder, why does it appear to start halfway? You see, within the inherent design of the shape itself, that is precisely how it is configured. Some brick patterns are intentionally designed to commence their arrangement halfway from the top edge. What other fascinating patterns do I have at my disposal? For example, there are various gradient patterns available. If I carefully select this particular pattern and then proceed to close the current view, you will be able to observe its effect much more clearly and distinctly. It effectively creates a smooth and continuous color gradient for me. For instance, I have the flexibility to set the initial color to this specific shade and then subsequently set the second color to a vibrant red. By utilizing the index color feature, it meticulously generates a comprehensive color range for me, spanning between the two chosen colors. Now, I have yet another valuable option, which is called tint, and this feature allows me to interactively play with these colors and provides me with different intensities and variations right here. I can effortlessly select any object I wish to modify, and now, based on that selection, I can choose from a wide and diverse array of various patterns. Furthermore, I also have the capability to utilize my own personally downloaded patterns. I will provide a detailed explanation on how to accomplish that at a later, more appropriate time. Now, this particular pattern is a distinctive circular brick pattern. If I attempt to set the scale to a value of 10, it actually becomes noticeably smaller. If I increase it to 20 or even 30, and so on, it continues to diminish in size. The Set Origin option is also conveniently located here, and by default, it was initially set from this specific location. Let's take a moment to thoroughly review other important features and functionalities. We possess the ability to precisely place different shapes within this area, as you can clearly observe in the accompanying illustration. You can also visually perceive the changes and transformations in this manner. I can effectively create a hatch or apply hatching in this precise way. I will provide you with much more detailed and in-depth explanations within the upcoming projects and will meticulously teach you how to effectively utilize more advanced techniques so that you can gain significantly better and more precise control over your hatch or hatching applications. I sincerely hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this session as well and found it informative. Until we meet again for the next comprehensive lesson, goodbye for now.